I have a finished project in my lap that I am very excited to share with you about. So if you'd like to know and learn what it is and what I thought and all of that, keep watching this video. So I won't leave you in suspense any longer, but the sweater that's in my lap, it's a sweater, is the Sawyer sweater that I've been knitting for over a year now, that it's finally done. Don't worry, I'm just a slow knitter. It's got ribbing, a textured thermal stitch, set in sleeve construction, a Henley collar. It's got a button placket with buttons on it, and it fits my dad, and it was for him. So I had been wanting to make a sweater for my dad, and I was on the hunt for a pattern to try. And I went to Brooklyn Tweed and I found Julie Hoover's Sawyer sweater and thought that the design of it just looked practical and perfect for the person I was knitting for. And so I picked that, and I picked the yarn that was recommended to go with it, which is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. So this sweater is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the color Soot. I actually thought about knitting something more colorful, but at the time I went to order the yarn, there wasn't many color options. It was gray or like, I don't even remember, there just weren't many at that time. It was over a year ago. And so this soot color was the best, I thought, for him of what was available. Um, but I'm still very happy with it because I think it's really just a versatile color. Um, I don't think there's much that this wouldn't go with. So I'm very thankful I actually did that. Um, what else do I want to say about it? If I knit size 48 and a half, I actually did not originally cast on size 48 and a half because I think I took measurements, but I had casted on the smallest size um, first, and I was knitting it. And as I was knitting it, I obviously it's growing, and it's on my kind of my lap, and I'm noticing that it's about the same width as I would need for a sweater. And me and my dad aren't the same size, so I suspected at that point, as I was partway up the back, this sweater is knit in pieces. So there's a front, there's a back, there's the two sleeves on each side, and then you pick up for the collar and the button placket. You knit a button placket and then you sew it on. So I was knitting the back first and noticed it was quite small. So I went to his closet, held it up against some of the shirts that fit him well, and it was definitely too small. So I ripped it out and I went up a size. So this sweater ended up being knitted in 48 and a half as the size. So, and that was perfect. Because normally this kind of a sweater too, you're not gonna be, wearing it without like a shirt or something. This is a pretty nice sweater that you would probably put over another shirt you were probably already wearing. So it worked well because I'm thinking I probably could have gotten away with the smaller size now, but not if you wanted to wear shirts under like a long sleeve or something else underneath it. So I'm very happy I ripped back, knit the next size up, and I knit all the pieces. So we knit the front, the back, then I knit the front, and then I knit the sleeves two at a time because I really wanted them to be completed at the same time. Um, I think the biggest thing I wanted to share was the little modification I had to do at the end when I was seaming. So this sweater, again, I followed a pattern, followed a gauge, and what I'm about to say is not a pattern issue at all. But either I stretched it out in blocking, or maybe just my tension got looser, I don't know. But my shoulder, so there was a front piece and a back piece, and then the sleeve, the shoulder width was quite wide, too wide. So the fact if I had sewed it at the edge of the shoulder, sewed the sleeve on at the edge of the shoulder, it would have been like down here. And with a set-in sleeve, it's not a drop shoulder sweater, it would have looked very odd, and maybe quite felt odd too, to have your sleeve starting down there. So I just measured about how much I wanted that in. It ended up being about an inch and a half, so it was quite a bit wider. So I just sewed in on the shoulder width quite a bit. So if you look on the inside of the sweater, I just fold it inside out. You can see there's quite a bit of extra fabric. It's like a very thick seam allowance. That was from me sewing in that shoulder width that I didn't want. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to sew that in, sew that down, or cut it and kind of finish the edge so it doesn't fray. I haven't decided yet, but it did solve the problem. It fits him well, and he hasn't said it bothers him. So for now, I'm just gonna wait on it and think about it. So I knit the body and the main portions, so mainly the main portions of the sweater on US size 7. I had to go down a size than recommended to meet gauge. So it was US 7 for like the front and the back and the sleeves, and then for the collar, oops, let's start, go in order. Then I knit the rib in US. What size did I knit? I'm not going to guess and tell you the wrong one right now. I think I used US size 6. So US 6 for the ribbing on the hands and on the bottom of the sweater. And then for the button placket and for the collar, I used US size 5. And that is from my, I'm looking down because I want to size down for my needle sizes to meet gauge. What else did I have to share about this sweater? I did use a different yarn for seaming, because this is knit, as I mentioned, in pieces, blocked the pieces. And then for seaming, I did not use Brooklyn Tweed Shelter because, let me get a drink real quick. Did not seam in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter because if you've worked with Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, it is an American made, produced, American sheep, American milled wool. It's amazing. It's so soft. It's really I always don't like to say sticky about yarn, but it has that warm, still maybe some lanolin in it feel. I love that about the Shelter yarn. But it does have a lighter, not as strong a twist on it. And if you, I know people with really tight tension, or, which I have a tight tension, I was surprised it didn't break more when I was knitting. Or if you, like I had happen a number of times, if you have your cake of yarn down in your bag and maybe something else is on top of it, or it gets kind of caught and you're pulling, and then you pull up and it breaks, and you only have, part of your strand of yarn. You need to, and then I split splice it back together. That is why I chose to use a different yarn for seaming, where you really want a hold on the seams. So it just so happened that I had in almost this exact color. I don't have the yarn with me, but it just happened to be almost exactly be the same color, was Quince & Co. Finch, and their yarn name of the color, I believe, was Kitty Wake. And it matched perfectly, and I used that for seaming the shoulders. I used that for sewing on the setting in the sleeves, going down the sides of the sweater body. And that is a very strong wool yarn that I was very happy I had on hand. I didn't have to order more. I did, what else do I want to share with you? I didn't take notes about what I wanted to share with you, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. The buttons on this sweater, I really like them. They are 5/8 inch wide buttons, and I actually, this is a little bad habit I have, but it worked out fine. But I didn't have in my button bag 5 buttons that were gonna work. I just didn't have 5 of the same size, or 5 that looked appropriate for a sweater for my dad. Um, so I've done this before. It's not the best habit, but I took the buttons off another sweater I had, one that's very old and beaten, and I probably need to. It's white and stained, and I probably should dye it and put new buttons on it anyway. So I took the buttons off that one. It was an Irish sweater that someone gave me years ago that I wear so much, and I still wear it. Um, but the buttons were perfect for it. So I borrowed permanently borrowed those buttons, and I probably will put new ones on. I think that sweater needs to spruce up anyway. But the buttons were great. I'll put new ones on that sweater, and they worked perfect. Perfect on this one, I think. So I think that's it.